So the concept of the magic rare brick came from the idea of a magic portal homage. In June 2023, when I was gearing up to interview Lindsay Flay, I had the idea of doing a magic portal homage, which was going to involve a general homage to the magic portal with the same sort of vibe and characters. It was even going to involve the outdoor chase. The idea never really got past a couple testing stages, and I focused on other things. I decided to come back to that idea, but I wanted to make my own story and ideas and characters to make something that obviously was a loving homage to the magic portal, but also something that stood on its own. I got to work coming up with ideas to see where I could take the story, and a lot of it just fell into place on the spot as I was making it up. The characters all have distinct personalities and traits that influence the story and made it fun for them to bounce off each other and move the story forward. First we have the man. He's the main character, he's a bit stupid, but he's got his moments. He's mostly just in it to find out what's behind the green wall. Then we have the woman, and she was there to serve as the smart one with all the ideas and the tools they use. You know, she's got the car, the crowbar, she's the driver. She's the one who really progresses them forward and serves as a great kind of balance to the two men's antics. And then we have the policeman, and he's just a total idiot who is always making bad decisions and just really setting the characters back. But he was by far the most fun to voice in anime, and all these characters work in service of the film. They make decisions based on their character and their personality that I crafted for them, and they drive the story forward, or back, with what they do. And I know this is all very basic storytelling stuff, but it really was the first time I'd properly thought of that. I decided to keep the designs very simple, no logos or anything like that, just plain generic people, besides the policeman. The decision to have a policeman in the film was also because the Magic Portal's characters inspired these, but the policeman served as a fun kind of authority figure who was just a total idiot and ruins everything. So I talked about the concept, but the actual story itself went through quite a few iterations. Originally, as mentioned before, the story was a smaller scale, featuring the same general theme of discovery with the whole portal thing, but he discovered a little world with all these creatures that would sort of come up to Earth and everyone would befriend them. And you know, that had potential, but on January 1st this year, I decided to revisit the idea and began writing out this fully fledged story. Honestly, it's kind of hard to explain where these ideas came from, as the general story just sort of fell into place as I was writing it, and it was sort of 3 acts of a certain length. First act being the whole meeting the characters, discovering the portal or not, then the second act being the car chase and all the action, and the third act being when the characters all get turned into clay. And originally the clay was going to be like actual models that were puppets, but I thought very quickly how difficult that would be to do, so I kept it to coloured clay blobs. The film had no set script, so many of the surrounding elements like jokes and some other story moments were just decided as I went along. Like the choice to have the scene where he alerts all the citizens about the portal, to have the citizens be brick filmers sig figs. The one that really took a lot of time actually resolving though, was how the whole part with the clay would play out. I had ideas of maybe the alien trying world domination stuff, destroying the town, but I felt that I needed a more funny and ridiculous thing to happen, so I came up with the Portal Discovery Award, which is the stupidest and funniest thing that I could think of. In a film like this, the scale is so large that the technical elements simply wouldn't be the standout element of the film, due to the amount of space I had to accommodate those that simply weren't there. Instead, adopting for the animation to be the standout element and the one I focused the most on, really crafting unique personalities in the characters' animations. For example, the policeman has very exaggerated and literal movements, acting out the words he is muttering and being very dramatic. The man is constantly facepalming at everything the policeman does, and also has pretty exaggerated movements, especially for the long spiels. And then the woman is similar to the man, but has her moments of feistiness as well, and exaggeration when needed. I really wanted to make the animation be extremely enjoyable to watch, as a film this long would need to have good enough animation to sustain the runtime. In total, about 31,358 frames were taken, and while the film was 24 on 2s, the camera movement was all on 1s, and there is a lot of camera movement in the film, so it's hard to really tell how much of the film is duplicate frames. The added element, of course, was the clay animation, and initially I was worried they'd be hard to animate, but they were pretty much exactly the same as the LEGO characters, because they were the same scale. The clay was also very malleable, so it was easy to animate with, and I liked doing the mouths, especially because I could be more precise than I could be with the drawing faces. No real moment of animation in the film really challenged me, except a sequence of animation of how to shoot the ending of the car chase. By far the most difficult shots to animate were the big wide shots in the car chase with people moving on the street and the cars coming past, mainly because of the sheer amount of space they took up, but also the amount of moving elements and figuring out how to make the cars swerve around corners without looking like they slowed down. Shots where characters ran and their feet was visible was also hard too, because hiding the attack is really hard sometimes. So another big standout of the film is the use of hand-drawn faces, which in my opinion make the film a lot better, and I couldn't imagine it'd be as funny without it. Whilst drawing a face is definitely simple, drawing one that I was happy with would sometimes take a while. I also had to keep track of when a character should blink, when their face should change, especially in speaking scenes where the characters' mouths would change every few frames to emulate talking. And then there's actually drawing a good face. It looks simple, but it honestly can get pretty difficult, especially towards the end of the film, when the marker I was using was well and truly worn down. Still, I think the faces are very charming and add a lot to the film to enhance the comedy, On the flip side, in my serious or non-comedy films, I think the drawn faces also work well in adding an element of rawness to it. It feels more real and scrappy. The sets in this film are admittedly not as detailed as usual, but I wanted to create a very stylistic vibe with the bridge and the glass cube void, keeping it very minimal and bare to kind of give off the vibe that the world was endless. Just ignore the paper backdrop being visible in like every single scene. The room with the portal is fully white with grey walls, as it created a sort of out-of-this-world feel, just as a glowing yellow light shining through the door did. The coloured corridors for the car chase just sort of went more into that sci-fi vibe that I wanted, and I think created some nice colour to add into the scenes. The portal itself is all a visual effect, created with a bunch of translucent Lego bricks with the light shown through, shutter speed on high, and just violently shaking it between frames, whilst also having the light be loose so it shakes around too, adding another layer to the effect. I've used this motion effect for many things, such as the driving shots in Hotel 505 in this film, and the portal shot in my CTS Christmas entry from last year. It's a great effect, and I have Penta and his Minions Party Bus brick film to thank for that, since that's where I discovered it. Thanks, Penta. Now, I absolutely can't do this making of without talking about the intense and relentless self-enforced shooting schedule. As I said before, the idea was created on January 1st, with sets built on January 2nd and 3rd. This test footage was shot on January 2nd. On January 3rd, I also did the first shot which didn't look too good, so I redid it the next day. Now, anyone who's in the brick film community knows what was happening on January 4th. Yup, it was Thack. I redid the opening shot in the morning, because Thack starts at night for me, and did the contest. Rested for a few days, and then on January 9th to April 4th, yes, every single day since then, I animated the entire film. The film was split into 5 separate segments on Stop Motion Studio, so I wouldn't make the app explode. Of course, in order to get the film done in the time I did, you gotta work at it a lot every day. I spent over 5 hours animating most days, with a lot of them reaching 6, 7, and very rarely, sometimes 8 hours. All in all, it was about 436 hours to do the entire thing, according to the app screen time for Stop Motion Studio. By about mid-February, I was halfway through the film. And yes, I did go outside in that time, I saw friends, went to work, and did other things, but I always found time every day to continue working on it. After a few days rest, on April 9th I began post-production work, and officially reached the final export on April 30th. Brick Film Day was May 17th, which meant that I was just sitting on the film for a couple weeks, so I started another film to pass the time, and then I discovered a couple problems with the sound mix, so I fixed those up, and the film was all ready for May 17th. For the past few films, I've really put lots of effort into the sound design to really immerse the audience. Now, by far this film being my longest ever meant that I had a really big task ahead of me. At first, I made a sound sheet breaking down each section of the film to see what I needed, but eventually I settled into it and just instinctively knew what I needed. I tried to get sound effects from all sorts of different sources, so they didn't stick out to everyone as the ones everyone else also used. Designing the car chase was by far the most difficult part, as I was going mad searching for all the different car sound effects I could find. To really beefen up the sound mix, I used a lot of layering. For example, in the bridge void, there's not just nothing. There's a space wind sound, there's void ambience, and there's a shimmering sound for the bridge. In the car chase especially, there's lots of layering. Take for example this shot, which used 17 separate sounds. Here it is without vocals or music, so you can really hear all the sounds. Separate sounds for the engine, and the tyres on the road, and for when the cars swerve around 2 corners. I used 2 sounds for each car to really layer the mix. Over 400 separate sounds were used for the film, some of which were repeated throughout. In every single timeline, the amount of audio tracks was always reaching an absurd amount, like 19 or 23. For the music, I looked at SNES boss tracks, and picked ones that were less known, and haven't been used in brick films much, if ever, and of course the classic Simpsons hit and run music, which I absolutely love and use at any chance I can, and luckily, there were many places that fit, especially at the end of the car chase. Seriously, it just syncs up so well to this part. The music just added another layer to the sound mix, and can help fill in blank moments. Towards the end to fill those in, I used mission jingles or character jingles from Simpsons Hit and Run, because they added some flavour and life into the scene, having little musical bits lining up with what was happening. At the same time, I also knew when to refrain from using music if it didn't need any. So there you have it, the making of the Magical Red Brick explained from concept to the final film. I hope you all enjoyed the film, and enjoyed this making of too. And I just want to give a special shout out to Chris and Penta for watching the film on the Brick Film Day stream and inviting me on the stream to talk about it after. It was absolutely the highlight of the night for me. And then the Brick Filmers Guild Awards happened, and I got Brick Filmer of the Year, so that was really cool too. But thank you everyone, and I'll see you all later.